of the United States of America presidential elections. Yes, voters in the US have had their say. Most of the polls have now finally closed after, of course, a day long of voting. Many days of campaigning, of course, came to an end, and now we have a clear picture emerging. No one candidate so far has crossed the 270 mark, but you can see, according to the latest projections and trends that have come in, that Donald Trump, the Republican presidential candidate, is ahead of his Democratic rival in Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is currently behind Donald Trump. It's of course been a close election, but now Donald Trump is extending his lead with each passing hour. What are the latest figures coming in from across the United States of America? What's happening in the swing states, and what are the margins currently looking like? Well, for that, let's go straight across to my colleague Asabri. Asabri, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Uday. We're going to, of course, take a look at the swing states, and as of now, 120 million votes have been counted. Quickly taking a look at the swing states, and starting over here with Wisconsin. We're going to quickly take a look over here. Donald Trump currently in the lead with 51.2% votes. Of course, Kamala Harris there with 47.3% votes right now in Wisconsin. We're also going to take a look at some more of in fact, all the 7 key battles over here. Taking a look at now Michigan, Donald Trump in the lead with 52.2% votes compared to Kamala Harris, who currently only secures 46.1% votes over there in Michigan. We're going to quickly look at more of the states in the eastern coast. Here we have Pennsylvania, and at this point of time, Donald Trump is in the lead with 50.9% votes, a small margin over there of roughly 2%, with Kamala Harris there at 48.1% votes. So again, here are the details that we have over here for Pennsylvania. Now taking a look at North Carolina, where the results are already out, with Donald Trump winning this specific state with 51.2% votes. We're also now going to head to Georgia, where at this point of time, Donald Trump is in the lead with 50.8% votes. He's roughly 2.5% ahead of Kamala Harris, who secured 48.5% votes right over there. We've of course spoken about all these over here, but now let's shift our focus to Arizona, where at this point of time, Donald Trump is in the lead. He has 50% votes, but then again, a very small margin over there. It was 0.2% earlier. Now, of course, we see a 0.8 difference over there. And as far as Nevada is concerned, Donald Trump is currently in the lead. Oda, back to you.
All right. We'll keep coming back to you, of course, Asabri, for those updates. Remember, of course, out of the swing states, one swing state has already been called for Donald Trump. That is North Carolina. North Carolina is a state that Donald Trump is projected to take. However, of course, the others have not been called just yet because the margins are slim and there is still some result, of course, left to be counted. But Donald Trump is, of course, leading in a majority of those swing states, as Sabri just told you, which obviously is making his camp very confident that he is on course to win the US presidential election 2024. However, if you look at the numbers in the last hour now have become close. The gap has closed up between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Donald Trump's currently standing at 230 Electoral College votes. Kamala Harris currently standing at 210 Electoral College votes. So the gap, of course, has closed in the last 1 hour. It was always projected to be a close election, but because the swing states is where, of course, it's all going to boil down to, and that's where Trump is leading, which is why his camp, of course, is confident that when the final numbers come, he will be, of course, well past the 270 mark. We're going to keep a close eye on that and keep updating you on more projections with regards to the swing states. But we have a special guest joining us now live. Emma Long is with us on the broadcast, professor in American History and Politics, University of East Anglia, United Kingdom. Welcome, Emma Long. Thank you so much for being with us today. The early voting trends have, of course, clearly, of course, come in. There were record number of early votes that, of course, were received, which obviously did lead many to believe that the final result will come in after many days. Is this something that's becoming a norm in America?
I think it means that votes may be delayed. Different states have different laws, of course, which require some can be counted first, and other early votes have to be counted after the votes that are passed on the day. So it's likely to have a different effect in different states. But I think what you want actually is to make sure that the results are fair and that they're accurate, right? And if that takes a little bit longer, that's probably not necessarily a bad thing. So I think in some states you may see a bit of a delay, in others you probably won't. I don't think, like I said, I don't think a delay in the result when you're counting this many votes is necessarily a bad thing, but it does open the door a little bit to anybody who's inclined to think that there's some kind of nefarious business going on in the background to be able to make those challenges simply because.
But Emma, that's something that Donald Trump had cited earlier too. He's already set the stage to dispute the election results. He's saying that swift election results should be the norm in the United States of America. He's alluded that delayed results could mean rigging of polls. Do you believe those concerns are legitimate?
There's no evidence to suggest that there's anything illegitimate about the way that the elections are being run in the United States. I mean, there are different states have raised questions about who's on the voting rolls and who isn't, about questions about voter ID and how long people are going to be waiting in line, and a whole range of issues. These are old issues that the United States has been dealing with for a number of years. But studies that have looked at US elections in recent years and throughout history have shown next to no evidence of illegitimate or in any way, shape, or form. So this is an electoral system that is about as secure as it can get. There is no evidence to support Trump's claims. There wasn't in 2020, and it's highly unlikely that there will be in this election.
Now we're going to have to look at the final statistics, of course, regarding this election once the entire results are out, and look at, of course, how women have voted, look at how men have voted, look at how, of course, what the issues in the swing states have been, which have led them to favor one candidate or the other. But, Kamala Harris had focused on pro-choice, particularly, of course, for the abortion. Also, of course, she had focused on providing health care, increasing tax cuts. Do you believe those issues resonated with the voter?
I don't think it's surprising that Harris has been pushing on the issue of abortion. It has been her issue as vice president. She was the first vice president to visit an abortion clinic, for example, and she's spoken out about women's reproductive rights really very strongly. I think Democrats were hoping that what happened in the 2022 midterm elections would happen again this year, which is that issues around abortion and reproductive freedoms on state ballots for state constitutional issues would lead people out to vote and to vote Democrat. There's some evidence that that is going to happen, but some evidence that not as many people may take that route as.
Yes. As a Democratic woman presidential candidate, what do you think Harris has done differently from Hillary Clinton? Hillary Clinton also, of course, was the most recent Democratic presidential woman contender. However, of course, she eventually lost to Donald Trump. What do you believe Kamala Harris tried to do differently from Clinton's campaign?
Harris has made a conscious decision to stay away from that issue, to not engage with it, to simply say Americans want the best candidate, regardless of who that is, and to not engage on the issues of gender. There's been lots of discussion in recent weeks about whether that sort of a lack of engagement has been alienating some male voters, particularly black male voters. It's not entirely clear how that will play out in the election yet, but I think people will be looking carefully to see whether ultimately the not leaning into the fact that she's a female candidate, and actually a candidate of colour, about whether those issues, whether that will turn out to have been a successful strategy or not.
Right. Now, could Harris's lack of experience, though, if the result were not to be in her favor finally, as we'll of course get to know in a few hours from now, do you believe her lack of experience in working in Biden's shadow made it difficult for voters to trust her to run the country?
Yes, I think because there's such a sort of lack of enthusiasm in many ways about the Biden administration, and the fact that people don't feel better off economically, which is a big part of shaping the way that people vote, and the fact that Harris has she's distanced herself a little bit from the Biden administration, but not massively. In fact, there's that sort of famous interview where she said she wouldn't have changed anything. So Harris is sort of having to deal with the legacy of the Biden administration, or at least the perception of the legacy of the Biden administration, which is not necessarily that positive in some quarters. That's sort of a big hurdle for her to overcome. And I think she's been trying to do that in part by talking about different issues, the issues that she's confident about, that she feels strongly about. But at the same time, she's having to kind of, in the way that an incumbent president running again has to deal with kind of what they did in the previous 4 years, Harris is sort of having to deal with that from the Biden administration as well.
Right. You know, Donald Trump, of course, has been getting a lot of traction on his immigration and economic policies. In fact, those have been the big issues that he concentrated on his entire election campaign. If he were to win, do you believe those would be the issues that have resonated with the voter? Emma?
One is to suggest that there are elements of racism playing a role here. Trump has been very successful at creating issues around the other, the outsider, the other American or non-American, is the case of illegal immigration. So there's an element of that, but that's not the whole story. People in the United States, you know, they look at the border, particularly the southern border, and the policy hasn't been great there for a number of years. Different people will point out what's wrong with the policy on the border, but it is somewhat of a mess. And Trump has been very successful in saying to people, these are the cause of your problems, right? This is the problem of the economy. This is the problem of crime, even though actually crime statistics are going down in the United States. Fear of crime has gone up. So Trump has used the issue of immigration and Americans' quite genuine fears on issues to sort of scapegoat particular groups.
Yes. How do you view Donald Trump's foreign policy, on the Ukraine-Russia war? And, going ahead, if Donald Trump were to win the election, what geopolitical implications will that have, his victory?
Trump has claimed, of course, that these wars wouldn't have happened if he was president, which I think is entirely unlikely and is a misrepresentation of the complexity of these issues. He's promised that he will end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours, which is also highly unlikely, or at least if it does come to fruition, it's going to be at the cost of probably the Ukrainian side of this. Trump's not subtle when it comes to the way that he follows politics. We saw that in his approach to international relations between 2017 and 2021 during his first term.
Yes.
So how that's going to play out in these rather delicate situations is difficult for me to judge at this point. But I think one of the reasons that the world is paying such close attention to this election, which ultimately is, an election in another country, is because the consequences of what the United States does on the world stage really does affect the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely it does. And we are, of course, which is why we in India too are paying such close attention to, of course, the US presidential race and, of course, the eventual result. Thank you very much, Emma Long, for the time being, for joining us with your perspective from the United Kingdom on this big story. Let me also join Professor Madhav Nalapath, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, for his view on this big story. Professor Nalapath, of course, a lot of trends now emerging from across the United States of America. Projections currently putting Donald Trump ahead of his Democratic rival in Kamala Harris. What's standing out, according to you, so far in the trends coming out of the US, Professor Nalapath?
Look, Uday, yesterday I had told Devika Chopra on NewsX that Trump wins, it will be a blowout victory. 300 plus, or at least near 300 electoral college seats he's going to get. And frankly, being, that was the closest I got to being politically correct and forecasting, a Trump win. And I had mentioned that it will be illegal immigration. That will be a very central point. And it will be inflation. And a lot of that inflation has been caused by the Ukraine war and the Biden sanctions on Ukraine, on Russia. And this inflation is hitting hard. So the economy and immigration, if these two factors are important to the US voter, as they clearly are, then if Trump wins, it will be a blowout. If Harris wins, it will be a very narrow victory. Now, that is the closest I could get to saying very clearly my view for quite some time that Trump is going to win. But in these very toxic times, it's difficult to say that. Now you can pass it off as Harris's race and other things. But the reality is Obama was elected president twice. It's not a question of race. It's a question of illegal immigration, and it's a question of the inflation and the other economic shocks, largely caused by Biden's relentless pursuit of an impossible goal, which is trying to get Russia to withdraw from territories that it had effectively controlled from 2014. I had pointed this out to Devika very clearly on NewsX yesterday, and of course, the prevailing view was very different, and your British interlocutor has also got the same. We completely forgotten the impact of the Ukraine war, the sanctions of the war, the inflation it is causing, and the harm it is doing. Every politician who has supported the Ukraine war, one by one, is falling by the wayside. And Trump and Vance are very clear. They will end the war. Both Vance and Trump. There's no ambiguity about it. There's no difficulty about it. You just have to cut off that unlimited tap that Biden opened, and Harris, poor lady, as has correctly been said by the previous discussant, she was still stuck with the legacy of Biden. And if you check my writings in NewsX, in Sunday Guardian, over months I've been saying she has to distance herself from Biden, otherwise she has no hope. And she couldn't do it. She didn't do it.
Yeah.
And frankly, Uday, I think what I hinted to Devika yesterday of a Trump blowout is very likely to come true. And it's going to have momentous consequences in geopolitics, not least because Trump is very clear and Vance is very clear. They want Russia on their side.
Yes.
Where China is concerned.
Yeah.
Vance is very clear on China. Trump is very clear on China. And believe me, I can tell you, Uday, this, in my view, the way it is heading, it could be a Trump blowout.
Okay.
It could be about 300 electoral votes.
Yes, absolutely. If these trends do turn into results, then he would be somewhere in that 303 vicinity, is what you're clearly saying. And you can proudly say then that you had projected it 24 hours ahead of everyone else, Professor Nalapath. Let me quickly join now Major Mohammad Ali Shah, a defense expert who I believe also joins us now live. Major Shah, if Donald Trump were to win, if these trends do turn into results, what implication is that going to have on geopolitics according to you? What implications is that going to have on the two conflicts which are currently on, in, of course, the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the conflict in the Middle East, which of course did start out in Gaza, but now has spread elsewhere.
Right, Uday, so far, as we all know, that Donald Trump has won over 27 states, and that's including Georgia, North Carolina, Texas, Florida, Indiana, Kentucky, and more, while Democrat candidate Kamala Harris back only 19 states so far, as early projections of the state they were streaming in. So now, if Donald Trump wins, so most certainly he's made very, very clear that he's going to end the war during of Russia, Ukraine, and the war would be ended. He has to just cut the umbilical cord with Ukraine and the unlimited supplies of encouragement of ammunition, because so far America has been being blamed that they only add fuel to the fire. They haven't done anything to stop it so far. And also the implications are also going to be seen in the Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Lebanon war as well. So most certainly there's going to be a lot of changes. Now, when for Joe Biden, whatever wrongs he had done, it's going to be passed on to Kamala Harris. That's the baggage, as Professor Nalapat rightly said, that, he used the word poor lady. She would be saddled with the problem that Joe Biden had created over there. So he's not been I would say Joe Biden also has not been a very successful president in USA. So his ill-givings would be passed on to Kamala Harris. Now, also, if you see, Kamala Harris would be about 60 now, and Joe Biden would be 78 now. And so the age difference. Now, Joe Biden, a lot of people had said that he has aged and he tips while climbing the aircraft. He cannot take decision states, and he was, so the age was handicapping him. That's what people had said. Now, Donald Trump also, but he is a friend of our Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. So, of course, he will favor the policies that for the Americans, no doubt. But at the same time, that soft corner would always be there. So, most certainly, when we see Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris, it was very, very neck to neck until yesterday. They were concentrating on states which could help them win. The steep states, they were different in where the polling would be focused more. They would focus there. Now it is quite, the writing is coming clear to the wall. It could so happen that Donald Trump might suddenly take over. It's gradually coming there. But Trump appears to be heading towards the presidency, as we all know that swing states. They were both concentrating on swing states. In fact, that's like North Carolina was heading in other. But Harris, however, could defeat him, even if she falls short in these two states with exactly 270 electoral colleges votes. Now, notably by winning Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, she could achieve a razor-thin margin of the victory there. So, the most certainly, it's a very, very nail-biting thing. And whatever elections, whatever people had to vote, they finished the voting. Now it is the counting. Now, irrespective whether whoever wins in the counting, it could so happen 210 Kamala Harris, 230 Donald Trump. It could again. It's a very neck to neck, steep to steep. So whoever, it's too early still yet to celebrate or to talk about who is going to be winning. But let's see. Ultimately, it's a matter of time. As a parting, to add a bit of humor to this, the whole world is focused on the US elections. It's become very, very serious, the atmosphere.
Absolutely. However, of course, the three, I want to quickly interject, and then you can make that point. You were citing three states for Kamala Harris, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. However, just a quick update for you, Major Shah. Right now, Donald Trump is ahead of Kamala Harris in all those three states that you cited, that she would win and then, of course, achieve the 270 that you are projecting for her. But that is looking unlikely right now. Yes, please complete. I think you want to make one last point.
Right. So Donald Trump is at 246 now. Just to add humor to this, the whole world is right now saying whether it's going to be a male, they are labor right now. So the male or a female, who will be. So most certainly right now, as you said, Donald Trump is ahead in all those three states, and out of 270, Kamala Harris so far The latest score I got to know it was 210, was it 246? So right now, Donald Trump seems to be heading the way, and let's wait and watch. And
well, you spoke about labor, and the fact, of course, is that abortion has been a big issue this time around as well, but it is not converting into the kind of traction that perhaps Kamala Harris would have wanted or expected in of course, various swing states. Let me quickly get in Sanjeev Srivastav now, foreign affairs expert. I believe he's also joined us now live. Sanjeev, welcome. Thank you for being with us today. What do you make of these trends emerging so far? Sanjeev, of course, the current projections in the leads, rather, not projections as yet, actually, it's just North Carolina that's been projected, but the leads right now not looking very good for Kamala Harris in the swing states. Sanjeev, what do you make of the trends coming in so far, and what do you believe has gone right so far for Donald Trump, and what do you believe has gone wrong so far for Kamala Harris, looking at these trends currently coming in?
Thanks to that. This trend is at this point of time is very much in favor of former President Donald Trump. And if he wins back the White House, then we can expect several big changes in the U.S. Domestic as well as in foreign policy. But the question which you have asked, that when Donald Trump is doing very well, is ahead of the
and Sanjeev, I'll just quickly interrupt you there, because we are getting, I think, a projection now coming in, because the numbers on our screen have gone to 246 now for Donald Trump. So he's taken a further lead there, and the reason for that is that I'm being told various outlets now and other entities are projecting that Donald Trump is going to win the battleground state of Georgia as well. So Georgia is likely to go in Donald Trump's kitty. That's a projection now that many international agencies and publications are now making, that looking at the trends coming in so far, and of course the margins, and also how much vote now is left, Donald Trump is expected to take Georgia as well. So that's now the second battleground state that Donald Trump is projected to win. The first was North Carolina, the second is Georgia. So those are now two crucial swing states, battleground states, which are in Donald Trump's kitty, and that means now that he has further solidified his lead and gone close to the 270 mark. He now currently stands at 246 electoral college votes. Kamala Harris is at 210. So that's the big news coming in. Further good news for the Trump camp. He is projected to win Georgia too. That's the big news coming in out of the United States of America. Yes, Sanjeev, back to you.
Yes, Donald Trump Uday is consolidating, and he's just a few votes away, just as you said, 246. 270 is the magic number, and he's getting closer towards that goal. And if that happens to that, that's what I was saying, then it will bring about several changes in the domestic as well as in foreign policy of the United States of America. But the question which you had asked, that what went in favor of Trump when he's performing so well, obviously economic issues were the main issues based on which American voters have made their mind, and cost of living crisis, rising inflation, rising unemployment rate have been a major issue for the American voters, and those in America, those who were facing several economic difficulties, cost of living crisis, they were expecting some change in the American system of governance, and obviously they have voted for a change. They have voted for Donald Trump and Republican Party. So that is a main important issue based on which American voters have made their mind. But another issue have been of immigration. Immigration certainly is another big issue, and on this issue, Donald Trump has been very consistent and clear on his position that if he wins back White House, if he becomes the President of the United States of America again, then he will carry out mass deportation he will take actions to protect the interest of America, the American citizens, and obviously because of the undocumented workers, because of the illegal immigrants, American national interest and America's the interest of the American citizens were getting severely affected, and that is why he was very much consistent and clear and determined that if he becomes president of America again, then he will carry out mass deportation. He will complete this the uncompleted task of building a wall in between Mexico and United States of America. So I think that has also gone down very well to those American citizens, those who were looking for their consolidation and looking for strengthening their home base. And obviously, the liberal view of immigration has been clearly rejected. It appears as of now when we are seeing the result. Obviously, the other issue based on where the American voters have not given their support to Kamala Harris is obviously a foreign policy issue. Many Arab Muslims, those Arab Americans, they were of the view that despite Biden administration's several pronouncements, they have not anything substantial to minimize the collateral damages which has happened in the Israelis' war against Hamas in Gaza. So thousands of innocent lives have been lost. So Arab Muslims, Arab Americans, they were not happy with the kind of approach Biden administration was having with Israel and Hamas war. But if you look at the Donald Trump's point of view on this, he was of the view that had he been in the White House, then Hamas would not have dared to carry out an attack like October 7. And when he is coming back in power, obviously it will put a lot of enormous pressure on those terrorist entities, whether it is Hezbollah or Houthi or other terrorist organizations, those who are operating in Iraq and Syria. And obviously they are all Iranian proxies. Iran will be under tremendous pressure. And I'm sure that coming back of Donald Trump to the White House will embolden Israel's actions against terrorism. But at the same time, I would also say that President Donald Trump, if he wins it, then he has been of the view that America should
absolutely. And now, just want to quickly apprise our viewers with some more statistics and facts. Now, the fact is that, of course, Georgia was a state which was seen as a Republican bastion. However, in 2020, after nearly 30 years in the last presidential election, Georgia had flipped blue. Georgia was won by Joe Biden. So Trump had lost Georgia in 2020 very narrowly, I think just by about 11,000 votes, but he had lost Georgia. And now this fact that Trump is projected to win Georgia will, of course, be very good news for, of course, his camp, but also is significant as this was a state that he had lost in 2020, but it's flipped back to the Republican camp. It flipped blue for the first time in 30 years. It's gone back now to the Republicans as per this latest projection. Okay, we are getting more reactions coming in. Mukesh Aghi, President and CEO of US-India Strategic Partnership Forum is speaking. Let's go live across.
To have its next president soon. How is the current situation on mood and ground as Americans begin voting for the next president?
Well, I think there's a sense of anxiety, there's a sense of uncertainty as to the outcome of the result. We are feeling like young parents outside the delivery room. We don't know if it's going to be a boy or a girl, or is it Kamala Harris or Trump itself. But I think the impact of the election result is not just having an impact on the United States, it has a global impact. So we are all waiting. We do expect this to be a very close race. We do expect that it will go beyond Tuesday night, evening end result, because some of the states counting will slow down. So it will take a couple of days for us to finally understand who is the winner of the current election.
Right. So you said that it is going to be a very close battle. It is a neck and neck battle between Democratic candidate Kamala Harris and Republican nominee Donald Trump. So since many people, I guess the last we checked, it was 75 million people have already casted their vote. Would that have an impact on the elections? And what about the swing states, sir? What is it saying?
So I think what we're seeing is a very interesting trend. One is over 50% of the voters have already cast their vote.
All right, that was Mukesh Aghi speaking there. Sabri, my colleague, is back with us for more details, more facts, statistics and numbers. Sabri, what do you have for us?
Thank you so much, Uday. We're of course now taking a look at the numbers. 210 is the projection for Kamala Harris. A good jump over here, closing, in fact, getting close to the 270 golden mark over here. 247 is the number that we are in fact tracking at this point of time. Let's talk about Montana at this point of time, where 55%, with 55% votes, Donald Trump has now clinched that state. So that's of course the latest development that we are tracking at this point of time. Let's quickly take a look at the key battles over here, starting off with Wisconsin, where at this point of time Donald Trump is leading with 51.4% votes. This is of course, there is a significant margin over there, with Kamala Harris clinching 47.2% votes over there in Wisconsin. Taking a look at Michigan and developments over there as well. Donald Trump leading at this point of time with 52.3% votes compared to Kamala Harris, who has 45.9% votes over there. So again, roughly a 6 to 7% margin is what we see at this point of time in Michigan. We're now of course going to be taking a look at Pennsylvania. Again, a very, very crucial battle over there, where Donald Trump is currently leading with 51.2% votes compared to Kamala Harris, who has 47.8% votes. So again, we see a rough 4% margin over there as well. We're now going to be taking a look at North Carolina, where of course the results are out there. Donald Trump has clinched that state. He has won with a margin of, in fact, with 51% votes over there. A comparative, 4% difference we see right over there in North Carolina. But again, he has won that state. Taking a look at Georgia at this point of time, and again, we have been conversing about that. Of course, we have the results right over here flashing on our screens. 50.9% votes for Donald Trump compared to Kamala Harris, who had 48.4% votes. Again, a very close contest is what we saw over here in Georgia as well. We're now of course going to be shifting to Arizona, where currently Donald Trump has 50% votes compared to Kamala Harris, who has 49.2% votes. A very small margin over there of 0.8%. So again, those are the details and the numbers that are trickling in. Uday, back to you.
Absolutely. It's very, very close. It's very, very close, of course, right now in certain swing states that you just read out, Sabri. But the fact, of course, overall is that Donald Trump, of course, currently ahead. He's leading on 247. He has 247 electoral college votes. If we talk about the leads and results currently, and Kamala Harris is on 210. Let me quickly go across back to Major Mohammad Ali Shah. Major Mohammad Ali Shah, of course, you were telling us about how Harris can still win this. Now, that's something that, of course, she's hoping for. Which are the states that she is going to have to flip, to add to her kitty, and where, of course, she's hoping that the leads will get reversed? It's very, very close, of course, in certain states, as my colleague was just pointing out. But which states now would her camp be concentrating on and looking at very, very closely as the results continue to trickle in?
Well, Uday, she could achieve a razor-thin margin. The three states which we just mentioned sometime, like, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Of course, Donald Trump has taken a lead now, and it's every second, minute is too long. Every second it's changing, So the very fact is now, sometime back, like you mentioned about 243 seats sometime back, and now it's increasing further. And, the race is, the magic number is 270 electoral college votes. So now the writing on the wall so far for everyone, if I go on WhatsApp and if I see people, America, whether it's in labor, a boy or a girl, everyone's saying, oh, it's going to be a boy right now. And still, I would say slightly a bit premature, slightly a bit too early, though writing on the wall Most certainly right now, at this point of time as we speak, it says boy, which means Donald Trump right now. But let's wait and watch. It could prove otherwise and as well, because in the swing states again, Donald Trump has emerged victorious, like North Carolina especially, and let's see, let's wait and watch exactly how it goes, because sometime back it was 27 states for Donald Trump
Yes.
and 19
Also, it
states
seems,
for
Sanjeev, Srivastav, if we talk now about the Senate and the House, it seems that Republicans have almost regained control of the Senate. They're very, very close to the majority mark as we speak. That's a big development as well, isn't it? Gaining a majority in the Senate once again, flipping the Senate back to the red zone would also be a big achievement for Trump, and of course a big deal for the Republican Party.
Certainly, Uday. I think it is going to be helpful for Donald Trump if he comes back in White House, and whatever the policy implementation he will do, it will get a very easy approval from the Senate, which is a very powerful, house, and the Republican Party there will certainly be very, very much helpful for Donald Trump. That is for sure. And I think that in senatorial race, Republican Party is, as you said very correctly, they are also performing there well. And it is all good news for Republican Party thus far. And with regard to the presidential race, obviously the swing states are the key decision maker in the US presidential elections, as we all know. And in this case, Donald Trump is leading in swing states. So I think last time he lost six of those 7 swing states, but now this time he is leading. So it is a very good news for Trump, and it is most likely that he will clinch the magic number of 270 and he will win back White House. But one point I would like to add, Uday, but I was mentioning before, that if Donald Trump becomes the President of the United States of America again, then on foreign policy front, we can expect certain developments, constructive developments, I would say. With regard to Russia-Ukraine war, there will be a possibility of a ceasefire, and also there will be a possibility of a peace deal, because Donald Trump has been consistently during his campaign trail saying that if he becomes the US president again, then he will end this Russia-Ukraine war, and he will take a big step within 24 hours of taking over. And that is
let's just talk a bit of, yes, Sanjeev, let's just talk a bit now about Pennsylvania for a second. And we are seeing now visuals coming in. I think this is from West Palm Beach, Florida. Those are Trump camp supporters. They've, of course, been camped either in Mar-a-Lago or, of course, at the convention center. Mar-a-Lago has, of course, been the viewing party. They've been, of course, watching the results there. And the convention center there is where Donald Trump is expected to speak shortly. He's, of course, going to be addressing jubilant supporters. But I just want to quickly talk about Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is now a state that Kamala Harris is going to have to win to keep her presidential hopes alive. This is a state she cannot lose. This is a state she has to win to keep her presidential hopes alive, because even if she carries Wisconsin and Michigan and Nevada and some of the other states, the other swing states, of course, where we don't know the final result just yet, she will still not reach 270 unless she has Pennsylvania, because Georgia now has also gone in Donald Trump's kitty. So what's happening in Pennsylvania? In Pennsylvania currently, it's 51.2% votes in favor of Donald Trump and 47.8% votes in favor of Kamala Harris. So those are the statistics right now in Pennsylvania. This is a do or die state for Kamala Harris, Sanjeev. But unfortunately, she's trailing Donald Trump currently by over 3%. That's quite a big deal.
Yes, certainly. Pennsylvania is the most important state among the swing states, 19 electors. And obviously, if Kamala Harris has to keep her hopes alive, then she must necessarily win this key state of Pennsylvania. But again, Donald Trump is leading there too. And if he continues that lead, then obviously he will take another 19 of those seats and the electoral college vote, and that will consolidate his position further, and that will give him the hope of Kamala Harris to continue with this race. So I think Kamala Harris and Democratic Party, thus far the news has not been good, and they are obviously they must be disappointed to see the result what has come so far. But still they must be keeping their fingers crossed because United States of America's election, till the time the entire results comes out, uncertainties will remain. And so in next few hours, I think the position will be quite clear. And I believe that thus far, the kind of reports from Pennsylvania is coming. Donald Trump and the Republican Party, they must be very jubilant and happy to see that result of the key state of Pennsylvania. And it is most likely that Pennsylvania will also go in favor of Trump. Uday, another point I wanted to make about President Donald Trump's new term of presidency. If he comes back in White House, then also we must remember that he was the one who came up with the Abraham Accords. And these Abraham Accords were so important decision in the US foreign policy that it brought about the normalization process what Israel was having with the Arab countries. And to disrupt the normalization process, Hamas carried out that attack. So I think when President Donald Trump is coming back to White House, he might again try hard to start the normalization process what was going on before October 7 last year. And I think that will be the biggest blow to the terrorist organizations like Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthi, because they wanted to disrupt this normalization process. And here is the president who came up with this idea for Abraham Accords and the entire normalization process. And I believe that that is another blow which this terrorist organizations and obviously their backer Iran will get once Donald Trump goes into the White House and he starts working from there.
Yes. Okay. Let's quickly go back across to Major Mohammad Ali Shah, who's also still with us. Major Shah, let's just look at it now from an Indian perspective. If Donald Trump were to come back to the White House, if these projections do turn into results and these leads currently in all the swing states, how are things going to be looking like for the India-US partnership going ahead?
Right, Uday, as we all know that Donald Trump has been a very good friend of our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. And of course, he will, as I mentioned earlier, he will favor the policies favoring his country, America, most certainly, but he will most certainly have a soft corner there. So whatever policy he takes will be favoring us. It will not be against us. It will not be. So a lot of Indian diaspora in America, because Kamala Harris is from Indian origin, they will not vote for her. I would say they have not voted for her, not because she's of Indian origin, but they will see perhaps what would favor them more. Now, regarding as far as Donald Trump's, if at all he wins, his stand towards India would be always firm. India would, because America is a super power right now. It is the #1 power in the world. So when we have the support, we will certainly have support. It goes without saying. So it is something which the Indian diaspora also over there in US and the Indians over here, they would be hoping for Donald Trump to win. And let's see, whatever it is, but I feel the Indian relationship, whether it's Kamala Harris, right now chances seem bleak at the moment, but one cannot say till the end, till the final results are announced. So whether it's Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, either ways, the Indian relationship with America is going to be good. And our foreign policy is, we all know the world acknowledges India for its foreign policy. So I see India will benefit either ways there.
Okay. Well, we are, of course, seeing these live pictures continue to come in from West Palm Beach in Florida. That's, of course, been where the Trump camp supporters have been through the day. Of course, today, Florida is also where Donald Trump cast his vote, of course, also on voting day morning. I think all the polls now have closed across the United States of America. Alaska, of course, being amongst the last of them to close, and which is why, of course, we're getting more and more trends and results, of course, now coming in. But quickly going back across to you, Sanjeev Srivastava at this point. Sanjeev, let's just talk a bit about, Wisconsin and Michigan. Wisconsin and Michigan are also states that Kamala Harris is going to have to win to keep her presidential hopes alive. But Wisconsin and Michigan also currently looking good for the Trump camp. So, the blue wall, as those states are called, not really going in Harris's favor currently, but it is, of course, going down to the wire because it is still close.
Yeah, it is could be a close call, and but only thing is that nothing going at this point of time is in favor of Kamala Harris in favor of Democratic Party.
And also, Sanjeev, interestingly, the decision by Kamala Harris, as one of her advisors has said, to not speak today to her supporters as well. She said, let the votes continue to come in. There are many votes still left. I will speak tomorrow to my supporters. While Trump, it is believed, could perhaps be addressing his supporters very, very shortly. What explains this contrast in decisions as well?
Well, I think obviously a Democratic Party would be, disappointed to see the trends at this point of time, and in particularly in the swing states where Democratic Party and Kamala Harris is not doing well, and swing states are the one which are the key, decision maker in any U.S. presidential elections, because the blue states and the red states they have been they have voted in these elections too, according to the expected lines. But the swing states are going in favor of Donald Trump and Republican Party. So obviously, it will be a disappointing development for Kamala Harris, and that is why she has decided not to speak today. But it is too early, not too early, but I think it is getting closer to the point that she will have to concede the defeat, and obviously for that to do, she needs some time, and till the time she is assured that she has not won this election, she has been defeated, then only she will be speaking and conceding. So I think those visuals will take time to come from the Kamala Harris side. But as far as the Donald Trump and the Republican Party is concerned, they are jubilant, they are very happy, they are very enthusiastic. We have seen the Trump supporters, they are known for their celebration and their joyful expressions. They are dancing, and obviously all news which has come thus far has gone in favor of Donald Trump and his supporters. So I think Kamala Harris is waiting and watching, and but news is not coming good for her. So I think whenever she speaks, she will have to do that speak for the conceding this defeat.
Okay, let's go get in Jayajit Bhattacharya, digital policy expert as well, onto the broadcast. Jayajit Bhattacharya, the markets so far have reacted positively to the Trump lead, both of course in the US with a very strong dollar today, but also markets elsewhere, including in India. How do you view this from the economic point of view, the trends emerging so far from the United States of America?
Even though Trump is believed to be pro-business and therefore, will work towards, as one of the panelists was saying, peace in the Middle East, so that business takes precedence over wars and over ideologies. So clearly, there would be a move towards more business focus. But also his recent utterances, which were anti-India from a trade perspective, should be of concern. He went ahead and said that India is an abuser of trade, whereas in that same week, a 630% anti-dumping duty was put on an Indian product. There are 200 Indian products on which US has put anti-dumping duties, whereas India has put anti-dumping duty on only one product. He also has this pet peeve of 80% duties on American automobiles and on bikes, and he was trying to push the Davidson bikes, Harley Davidson bikes into India, which obviously they were not competitive enough and they could not succeed, whereas other bikes have succeeded. Cutting the long story short, essentially there seems to be anti, I wouldn't say India, anti rest of the world stance that US has, that Trump has. And therefore, will that be helpful to the domestic economy becomes a question mark. The way Trump's presidency will be helpful to the Indian domestic economy is if he brings in peace to the rest of the world. If he brings peace to Ukraine, Russia, if he brings peace to Middle East, then that will have dividends in terms of lower cost of energy, lower cost of trade, because all of our freight costs have gone through because we are not able to send ships through the area where there is conflict because of the Houthis who have jumped into the Middle East conflict, and therefore there will be collateral benefits that India will be reaping. But in a direct US to India kind of a relationship in terms of trade, I think it will be a very a rough patch that we might be facing under the Trump presidency if Trump wins in this election.
Okay. Well, let me quickly also join Himanshu Bhatt now, a senior journalist who's also joined us. And before I get you in here, Himanshu Bhatt, now another big development is coming in. Another big development is coming in, which is going to be very good news for the Donald Trump camp. We're being told that Fox News has called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. So Fox News has projected that Pennsylvania will be won by Donald Trump. They've called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. That's a big development coming in because that is almost going to erase now Kamala Harris's chances of coming back to the White House. She would have had to win Pennsylvania apart from the other battleground states which haven't been called yet to have any chance of clawing back in the race and going ahead of Donald Trump. But now the big news coming in is that Fox News has called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. This is not going to be good news at all for the Harris camp. Donald Trump, if he wins Pennsylvania, is pretty much certain of crossing the 270 mark because he also leads in several other swing states. So this is big news coming in. Fox News' projection has come in for Donald Trump to win Pennsylvania as well. Remember, multiple outlets right now, a few outlets have still not called Pennsylvania. Fox is, of course, called Pennsylvania, looking at the trend so far. But all other outlets and international media entities have called 2 states already. So 2 swing states have been called already, that is Georgia and North Carolina. They're both in Trump's kitty, and now this is the third other big swing state which is also being projected now to be won by Donald Trump by Fox News. This would mean, if this is correct, that Donald Trump is now extremely likely to be the next president of the United States of America. Asavri has more details on this big development. Asavri, over to you.
Absolutely. Uday, adding to what you were just talking about, we are of course talking about Pennsylvania, and at this point of time Donald Trump is in the lead with 51.2% compared to Kamala Harris, who has 47.8%. Now why is this important? Because this is of course again, when we talk about the margin at this point of time, here is the margin at this point of time. Projection for Kamala Harris 214, for Donald Trump 247, and of course the golden mark right over here 270, the big win right now, with of course Fox News calling Georgia, Pennsylvania for Donald Trump for that camp. This number is of course going to see a significant jump, and again, Uday, as you were saying, the probability
Pennsylvania has how many electoral college votes?
Pennsylvania, Uday, at this point of time has Pennsylvania in total has 19 electoral votes. So
yes.
Again,
so it has 19 electoral votes. So if that does go to Donald Trump's kitty, then he gets very close to 270.
Very close. So again, the probability.
And I just want to add one more thing to that, Asabri, that I believe 92.74% of the results are now in. So just about 7.3% remain to be counted.
Right, absolutely. Uday, we're getting very, very close to, of course, the results. 19 electoral votes, as you were mentioning. For, again, Donald Trump currently has 247, accumulating that number. We're, of course, going to see a 256 flashing very, very soon. Again, 270 there being the big mark. We were, of course, talking about Pennsylvania, where at this point of time, 51% votes for Donald Trump, and again Fox News has called it out. They have said that Donald Trump and that camp is going to be clinching this state as well. They're back to you.
Yes, absolutely, which would mean that Donald Trump would go up to about 266 in this current tally. So that's just 4 short of 270, of course, as I was saying earlier. This is very, very good news for Donald Trump indeed, if these trends do turn into results. And Fox News' projection, of course, has now come in. In fact, Trump War Room also now claiming Pennsylvania for Trump. Let me go across to Himanshu Bhatt now. Himanshu Bhatt, senior journalist, also with us. Himanshu, come in here on these, of course, latest trends emerging overall, but also this projection now coming in for Pennsylvania. If Pennsylvania also goes Trump's way, then it's but certain that he's becoming president, isn't it?
It looks like so. But let's not call anything, till it is done. Because in US elections, funny things do happen. The funny things always do happen. And now it's a time, when the race is very, very close, then these funny things will start happening. And it can happen. The way figures are projected right now, the way people are saying, the way all agencies are saying, he's going to win it. That's one thing. But then, will the other side accept the defeat? My basic worry here is this, This election is not going to be a smooth ride for any side. Whoever loses is not going to accept that they have lost it. Because there are so many things at stake here. Whether you like it or not, you have to accept it. Because on one side, a dream was sold to the people of MEGA, Make America Great Again. And as Dr. Bhattacharya was saying, it's very right that when you make America great, it may not be good for the world. But at the same time, you got to understand one particular thing, that Donald Trump is a good buddy of Bharat and Narendra Modi. That's number one. Yes, there might be tariffs. Huge tariffs will come up. So we will find it very difficult to trade our product, export our products. But at the same time, if the wars are stopped, if a new nuclear power doesn't come up in this particular region, it's to the lateral benefit of this country, our country. I am looking at it from the Indian point of view. If we are looking at something, Ukraine, that's going to happen. The focus is going to be on China, as it was there in his first term. So that will be an indirect benefit as far as Bharat is concerned. At the same time, Bibi Netanyahu in Israel will breathe easy. Because if you remember the words of Netanyahu, what he has said, Barack Hussein Obama for 8 years gave me nightmares, which he will not have to go through it again. So let's understand all these things in perspective. Let's put all these things in perspective. And when we do that, we do understand that Trump winning is going to be good for Americans and good in a larger sense for a country like Bharat. That's what I have my initial submission. After that, we can discuss on other things.
Absolutely. Elon Musk also pretty jubilant. Elon Musk, of course, is also very, very bullish. Remember, he's been one of the big supporters for Donald Trump. Elon Musk has been putting out tweets as well on his platform X. He's, of course, put earlier, this is a nation of builders. It's going to be time to build very soon again. He's also right now in his latest post put out, the future is going to be fantastic. So obviously, these are now reactions coming in from the Trump camp, which of course are pointing out at their mood right now, at their sense, given the fact that victory is now becoming very, very close for Donald Trump. Remember, again, just want to put out there that if Donald Trump does win Pennsylvania, as the Fox News projection of course states, then this means that he's just 4 votes short of the majority. And remember, he's currently leading in many of the other swing states. What's the scenario in those swing states? Let's go straight across to Asabri, who has the latest numbers as how things stand right now on ground.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Uday. At this point of time, Kamala Harris with 214 seats. Of course, 247 is the number for Donald Trump. 270 is a number that we are looking for. And maybe very soon we will be inching close to that as well. Taking a look at Wisconsin over here, where, of course, quickly, we're going to take a look at that as well. We're, of course, looking at the state map over here and how it looks like. Again, Donald Trump over here with 247. And again, we've, of course, seen what's happened even when we were talking about Pennsylvania. There were roughly 50% votes, so 51%
let's try and look
votes
at
over
Michigan,
there.
Meanwhile, if we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you in a second, Asabri. Let me get in Major General Sudhakarji as well, who's also joined us now live. Major General Sudhakarji, big news, of course, coming in from the United States of America. Donald Trump currently leading over his rival Kamala Harris. It's, of course, close in many of the swing states, but he is now expanding his lead slowly but surely. What is your take on these trends emerging from the US and the factors that you believe have led to this picture coming out?
Uday, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for getting me to your show. Little while back, I was with Rishabh, and I told him 2 days back my daughter had spoken to me after having gone around the swing states, and she quoted that, Papa, this time the sway is in favor of Donald Trump, don't quote me. So with this background, all I would say is that miles to go before Donald Trump goes to sleep. There are a lot of responsibilities, domestic constituency, the regional and the transatlantic and the global. So if we actually look at all these aspects globally, I think he's made the right kind of noise and given assurances, particularly the capital of Arab people in America. I think Michigan is the capital where you have majority of the Arab population, 300,000 such people. And I have heard his interview and speaking to the voters, where he assured them that the war in Middle East will come to an end, contrary to my belief and understanding. That here is a man who is going to hammer Iran nice and properly on the nuclear assets. But the kind of assuring statement he gave to the voters during his campaigning season is very remarkable, and that would bring some kind of a peace and harmony to this war-torn region. Coming to the Ukraine, I personally feel he's the man who is going to bring about ceasefire and finally some kind of a resolution. What kind of resolution? It is easier said than done. They have tried out Minsk I, Minsk II accord, and we leave it to him and his wisdom, how he brings about. But he appears to be very confident. And there also the conflict will come to an end. Now is left with the Indo-Pacific. This is the global roundels I'm trying to give a very brief touchdown. Indo-Pacific, things are very, very hot and hostile in the South China Sea. There we need to see, because it is he who had rejuvenated the very concept of Indo-Pacific in 2007. And if you recall, after Prime Minister Abe, may his soul rest in peace, gave the new concept in the Parliament of India in 2007, there was a dormancy phase of concept of Indo-Pacific. It is he who had given a kind of momentum to the whole concept. I think he's definitely going to make very serious efforts to contain and also carry out some kind of a strategic encirclement and compete with China, impose stringent measures that the CHIP Act has been already enforced, so as the tariffs. He's going to go ruthless as far as my assessment goes and tighten the loop around China. This is the global dimension. Now come to the Europe. He's already clearly indicated that the NATO forces, they have to survive on their own. The defense budgets have to be increased. I know they're getting nightmares at the very conceptual thought process of Donald Trump, but that's the way to live. That brings us to the domestic constituency across the Atlantic. His concept is MAGA, Make America Great Again, meaning he wants to address the core issues.
Absolutely. Sanjeev Srivastava, stay with us. I beg your pardon, Major General Sudhakarji, stay with us. I just want to quickly now apprise our viewers with what the scenario is in the various swing states. Remember, it's all boiling now down to the swing states. Out of them, 2 battleground states have been won by Donald Trump already. That's North Carolina. North Carolina, of course, the projection has, of course, come in that Donald Trump is winning this swing state. He's currently, of course, at 51% of the votes compared to, of course, 47.8%. That means 16 electoral votes of North Carolina go to Donald Trump's kitty. The second big swing state, of course, that has gone in Donald Trump's favor, according to, of course, the projections, is Georgia. Georgia also was a swing state. The Kamala Harris camp was concentrating a lot on it. Remember, Georgia, of course, was a state that was won by Joe Biden in 2020. Trump had lost this the last time around, but now in the projection, of course, that's come in with a 58.8% lead vis-a-vis 48.4% for Kamala Harris. Donald Trump is projected to win Georgia. That means 16 electoral votes of Georgia also go to his kitty. Remember, this is all, of course, what has now led to Donald Trump's tally reaching 247 electoral college votes vis-a-vis Kamala Harris's 214. And remember, now let's talk about the other states, because Pennsylvania, of course, was the one state that Kamala Harris would have had to win if she had any chance of course, reaching Donald Trump's commanding lead currently. But now, according to the Fox News projection, it's also likely to go in Trump's kitty. Why is that? That is because Donald Trump, although, of course, AP, CNN and other outlets have not called this state yet, but why is Fox News so bullish that Donald Trump is going to win Pennsylvania? That is because almost 93% of the votes have been counted, and this is how things stand currently in Pennsylvania. 51% votes are going to Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. That's a 3% lead. That's significant. A 3% lead right now over Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, of course, currently on 48%. If we talk, of course, about the state, you can see it over here. Erie County as well. Erie County was a county which went in favor of Barack Obama. It also went in favor of Joe Biden, but Trump has flipped this now. Erie County also has turned red, as you can see there. Philadelphia, though, is somewhere where Kamala Harris is continuing to lead. She's hoping the numbers there shore up her tally, but remember now a 3% trail for Kamala Harris is becoming very, very difficult to turn around. Let's just tell you about what the other swing states currently are looking like. Michigan. So Michigan, of course, another very, very crucial state. Let's quickly look at Michigan. Michigan right now, which has 15 electoral votes, is also seeing a significant lead for Donald Trump. Donald Trump currently leading in Michigan with 52.2% votes. Kamala Harris is trailing at 46.1%. You can see there, that is a 6% lead in this state of Wisconsin for, in Michigan for Donald Trump. So Donald Trump leading Michigan currently by almost 6%. Let's tell you about what the scenario in Wisconsin is. So Wisconsin, again, another swing state which has 10 electoral votes, is also seeing Trump in the lead. Donald Trump currently, remember, Wisconsin and Michigan have still not been called just yet because there is still a lot of counting to be done. But in Wisconsin, currently Donald Trump is also ahead. He's at 51.4% votes. Kamala Harris is behind at 47.2% votes. So that's about a 4% lead that Donald Trump has in Wisconsin. Let's quickly show you about what's happening now in Arizona. So in Arizona, as things stand right now, Arizona has 11 electoral votes. Donald Trump is leading here as well. Donald Trump is currently leading here, but things are very, very close in Arizona. So Donald Trump, of course, in the lead with 50.1% votes. Kamala Harris is at 49.1%. So just 1% votes separates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in Arizona. So Arizona is right now too close to call. 11 electoral votes up for grabs in Arizona. Nevada was, of course, one of the last states to close. It, of course, is in the West Coast, which is why polling closed late there. What are things right now in how are things right now looking like in in Nevada? Well, in Nevada, Donald Trump right now is at 51.2% votes. Kamala Harris is behind him at 47.2%. That means it's about a 4% gap in Nevada in favor of Donald Trump, and 6 electoral votes, of course, are up for grabs there. So that is what, of course, the United States of America currently is looking like. You can see there, this is the map. It's predominantly red, of course, or slightly red, which means that the Republicans are leading. And of course, the number of blue states has gone down significantly. Not good news, of course, for Kamala Harris if these projections would turn into results. Now, I'm getting another big development coming in this hour, and that is that Fox News now is projecting. Okay, big news coming in. According to Fox News, Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States of America. They've made the big projection that Trump will become the 47th president of the United States of America, because according to Fox News, Donald Trump currently stands at 277 electoral college votes. Yes, that means he's past the 270 mark. Kamala Harris currently on 226 according to Fox News. Fox News is perhaps the first big United States media house to project that Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States of America. Donald Trump currently at 277 according to Fox News. That means he's, of course, crossed the magic figure required to become the next president. Donald Trump right now is leading in all swing states. He's leading in Nevada, he's leading in Arizona, he's leading in Wisconsin, he's leading in Michigan, as I just showed you, of course, on that big screen. And Harris, though, now has won Hawaii in the latest update coming in. So some good news for Kamala Harris in Hawaii, but remember, Hawaii has just 4 electoral votes, so her tally just goes up marginally. Let me quickly go back across to our panel that's live with us. This is big news coming in so far, isn't it, Sanjeev Srivastav? Donald Trump leading in all swing states, and you have now a big media house there, Fox News, project that he will be the next president, because according to them, he has crossed the 270 mark.
Yes, I think, Uday, this is the best news which a Republican could expect, and Fox News's projection must have given enormous sense of joy to the Trump supporters and Republican Party and to Donald Trump. And the projections which are there in the swing states clearly suggest that the swing states have gone in favor of Republican Party this time, and they are the one who ultimately decides who is going to become the US president. So I think this time has been no exception. Again, swing states have played the most important role, the key deciding role in determining the next US president. And this is the best news has come, and it is it's very much clear that Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States of America, 47th president of the United States of America. And his presidency, the next president of the United States of America, will bring about a lot of opportunities, but also he has a lot of challenges to deal with on domestic front. Obviously, on economy related issues, his focus will be the key, because the American people, the American citizens, they have been facing the cost of living crisis. The inflation numbers were rising. In the latest developments, unemployment rates they have been rising. So I think a lot of economic difficulties the American people have been facing, and because of which I think Donald Trump's main focus will be to bring about change, to bring about reforms and bring about the better policies what the current administration was having. And I think the economy will be the key issue for him. But on the issue of immigration, on the issue of the abortion right, etc., we might expect some kind of some decisions, some key decisions from Donald Trump's side, especially on the immigration issue, when he has been saying that he will do a mass deportation. he will complete the uncompleted task of building a wall between US and Mexico. So that is another task he is going to be completing. And obviously on foreign policy front, there is a great possibility of a ceasefire now between Russia and Ukraine war, because he has been saying consistently throughout his campaign trail that he becomes President of the United States of America again, then he will bring about and he will take a big step within 24 hours, and he will bring this entire conflict to the close. So I think that is another big possibility which is emerging when Donald Trump is going to become the next president. Another point I would say, Uday, as I was mentioning, that in Middle East region, coming back of Donald Trump into the White House will boost Israel's resolve to fight against terrorism. And these terrorist entities like Hezbollah and Houthi and others, they will be under enormous pressure. And Iran will be under enormous pressure. So I think in times ahead, if Iran has any plans to carry out against Israel, Iranian leadership will now think 100 times before going for any other such plans. And I think that will put very much, a very intense pressure on Iran not to go ahead with any kind of aggression now. Because when Trump is in White House, then I think United States of America's approach towards Iran will be very, very tough. So I think, and that will discourage Iranian proxies like Hezbollah and Houthi to carry out attacks against Israel. So I think on Middle East region also, we might expect some kind of a peace. And there is also, I see the possibility of a ceasefire because this terror outfits and their supporter Iran will be under enormous pressure because of the Trump's presidency. So I think on those fronts where the two big wars are going on,
yes,
I expect some constructive and positive development.
Okay, stay with us. Sanjeev Srivastava, because I just want to quickly apprise our viewers with that big Fox News projection. This is the Fox News projection. They have put out very, very clearly that Donald Trump projected to become the 47th president of the United States of America. That is what Fox News currently is saying. They projected that he will be, of course, well past the magic figure of 270. In fact, they're currently putting him at 277. They're also putting out, so they're projecting, of course, Donald Trump defeats Kamala Harris to become 47th president of the United States of America. They're also saying that Republicans are projected to take control of the Senate with at least 51 seats required for outright majority. So two big projections by Fox, of course, giving control also of the Senate to the Republicans. Remember, this also would be a very, very significant development, of course, if that happens, because it would mean that, of course, Donald Trump would, it would be much easier for his administration to pass legislations with them getting control of the Senate as well. Let me quickly bring in now Major General Sudhakarji back onto the broadcast. Major General Sudhakarji, if it is indeed a Trump presidency, as Fox News is saying, and as the numbers so far are looking like slowly but surely, what impact will this Trump presidency have on geopolitics, on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, also on the war in the Middle East, on the conflict, of course, in Gaza, and also on the India-US relationship?
Perfect. As I have already articulated in the past conversation, he is definitely going to bring ceasefire immediately. People say within 24 hours. Well, it's a tall order, and we pray for the best that something good happens and the conflict in the Central Europe comes to an end. And when we talk about this end, it could be based on as is, where is basis, something on the concept that we have line of control between India and Pakistan, wherever the Russians are, and at the last line, battle line, they have to form in, and that becomes the dividing boundary between two countries, and no expansion of NATO to Ukraine, because if that chapter is opened, again the warfare is going to take a new opening. So therefore, it will do him good if he brings everything to a closure and lifts all the sanctions against Russia, because we have lost sight of one important fact, whether it is Biden administration or otherwise. The Western alliances, by virtue of supporting Ukraine, they have pushed Russia into a deep embrace with China. which is contradictory to the national security strategy which was formulated and came out in black and white in October 2022, that China is enemy number one. It has to be contained, it has to be contested, it has to be competed against. So therefore, in order to make congruent effort, they will do good if the war in Central Europe comes to an end. All the sanctions imposed, if not all selectively, and I would say the majority ones should be lifted against Russia, and Russia's deep embrace with China should be gradually pulled back so that it falls back to its normal status. Number two, coming to the Europe situation, they are nightmarish about Trump coming back to power, because it is Trump who has actually told them that they have to be self-dependent. They can no longer enjoy or bask in the glory of the previous NATO agreement. The defense expenditure has to be increased, and they have to survive, defend themselves from any kind of aggression. Now you come to the Middle East. Middle East, I personally feel that Iran is really dreadful of Donald Trump, because it is only Donald Trump time and again, repeatedly, consistently has been threatening that if he comes back.
Okay, I think we've lost that connection with Sanjeev there and with the Major General Sudhakarji, but I'll come back to our guest panel. I just want to quickly apprise our viewers with the latest news now coming in from the poll tracker. Of course, remember, this is where things currently stand. Donald Trump at 248 electoral college votes vis-a-vis, of course, Kamala Harris at 214. She is still trailing Donald Trump, of course. If we look at the overall picture in the United States of America, Donald Trump, of course, currently, if we talk about the entire US, even in popular votes, is ahead. He's at 51.2% of the votes, and Kamala Harris is, of course, at 47.4%. So about a 4% trail for Harris if we talk about the overall picture. Quite interesting, Green Party, of course, Jill Stein there, no electoral votes for her. She's at 554,000 votes. But I just want to point out something very, very interesting. Independent candidate for president of the United States of America, Robert Kennedy, remember, he pulled out of the race. He pulled out of the race and put his support for Donald Trump, but he still picked up 539,529 votes, because remember, he was still on the ballot in a lot of the states. So quite interesting there that he's still, pulled 539,000 votes despite declaring his supporters to vote for Trump, because he had, of course, pledged his support behind the former president of the US. But quick update before we go back to our panel of how things stand. So let's look at Alaska as well. Remember, Alaska also right now has not been called because Alaska, of course, was one of the last states to close. Just 26% of the results are in. 3 electoral votes for grabs in Alaska. Donald Trump currently leading in Alaska. It's a state he's expected to win. He's at 56.8% vis-a-vis 38.6% of Kamala Harris. Now, talking, of course, about the other swing states, of course, of Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Those are the states still left to be called, because the results are still, of course, left to be counted. It's very, very close. Arizona still remains very, very close. As you can see over here, still just a 1% gap between Harris and Trump, but Trump continues to lead Arizona as well. You can see over here, of course, Phoenix is somewhere the Democrats are doing all right, and Tucson as well. Apart from that, the state looking good for the Republicans. If we talk about Nevada, well, Nevada is seeing with 79% of the results reported, Nevada is seeing 51.6% votes go in favor of Donald Trump and 46.9% in favor of Kamala Harris. So Donald Trump's lead is looking all right in Nevada right now. But remember, things, of course, are still too early to call there, because just 79% of the results are in. Nevada was also one of the last to, of course, close. Pennsylvania, the big state, which, of course, Fox has already called in favor of Trump. But remember, Pennsylvania, of course, is a key state where Harris would have had to win to have any semblance of coming back to power. And you have now 95% of the results in for Pennsylvania. So just 5% results remain for Pennsylvania. And how are things looking like there? Well, now you can see, of course, Donald Trump is still ahead. He's at 51% votes in Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris slightly has come ahead. I think she was at 47.9 or something just a short while back. She made that 48. Now she's at 48.1%, but that is still 2.9% votes behind Trump. So Trump's lead is still looking all right in Pennsylvania. 2.9% is his lead currently. Remember, Pennsylvania, of course, has 19 electoral votes up for grabs. Let's quickly look at Michigan. Michigan, remember, also right now is just 70% of the results in, which is why no agency has called Michigan just yet. 30% of the results are still left to come in. And in Michigan currently, it's Donald Trump, though, who has a commanding lead over Kamala Harris as things stand right now. Donald Trump is at 52.4% votes and Kamala Harris is at 45.9%. That means it's about 6% lead for Donald Trump as things stand in Michigan. Let's quickly take you through what's happening in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, again, another key battleground state. So, of course, the projection in Wisconsin has also not been made by any agency because it's still been quite close there. 89% of the results are in. That means 11% votes are still to be counted. And in Wisconsin too, like the other swing states, it's Mr. Trump who's ahead. Donald Trump currently standing at 51.3% votes as compared to Kamala Harris, who has 47.2% votes. So again, that's about a 4% give and take lead that Donald Trump has over his Democratic rival. So that's the scenario as far as, of course, the swing states are concerned. Remember, of course, now the map of the US turning predominantly red, which is what things, of course, are looking like. The fact is that it's, of course, looking in favor of Donald Trump. Just quickly, of course, look at, of course, those states where the blues are ahead. They're just, of course, pretty much concentrated either on the West Coast, that's Oregon and California, or right in the West Coast, that is New York and Virginia. All right, so this is the current picture that's emerging from the United States of America. Donald Trump, of course, is ahead of his rival Kamala Harris. Donald Trump is steadily leading and there is jubilation in the Trump camp. We're hearing he could be speaking very, very shortly in Florida. We'll get you that speech live right here on NewsX when it happens. We're learning Kamala Harris has deferred her speech to tomorrow. That is already a sign, perhaps, that she's not looking very, very confident.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.